Hey, I'm back once again, YouTube, and you're going to be seeing quite a bit of me lately. I've got a lot of videos planned. I'm going to be on a video making spree. Why am I wearing this do-rag over my mouth? Is that like a political statement? Yeah, sure it is. I'm an anarchist, but it's also so that when the sound and the picture go out of sync again, which they will, the effect won't be quite so jarring on the viewers because you won't be able to see my lips moving and see how out of sync it is. Anyway, this is a reply to Russ Lindquist's video called Google Censorship, parentheses, the Smooth Terrorist. And by the way, Russ, I would have replied to your video sooner, but for some reason it didn't show up in my subscription box until today, even though you posted it 2 days ago, which I really don't fucking understand what's going on there. And it's a little aside before I get into the point of the video. What's that tattoo on your neck that says SFTU? Because I was just wondering. I mean, is that like San Francisco Tenants Union or something? Because I tried looking up SFTU, and unless it's supposed to say STFU, I don't know what the, you know. I'd just like to know the story behind that one. Anyway, you know, Russ, watching this video that you made for me, I'm forced to wonder if you really meant the things that you said in it, or if you were just kind of playing a straight man and giving me like a sounding board off which to vocalize my ideas, which I would greatly appreciate it, you know, if that is what you were doing. But if you really believe the stuff that you said, then we need to talk. Because I disagree with you big time. Big time. Now, the first thing about your video that jumped right out at me, and it really made me laugh, and I'm not making fun of you, but I found it hilarious, was when you said to me, well, if you don't like the way YouTube is censoring you, then just go somewhere else. That's what I did. But the obvious punchline to that is that here you are back again, Russ. Here you are back on YouTube. And I wonder why that is. Well, obviously because YouTube is too big to fail. There really is no competition. You know, the drop-off between YouTube and their next biggest competitor, which I guess would be Dailymotion, is so sharp that it's like the drop-off in military spending between the United States and our next biggest competitor, which is China. You know, there's just no contest, in other words. YouTube is too big to fail. This is the video sharing website on the internet. And, you know, if you're waiting for the market to do its job and YouTube's treatment of its users to become so odious that everybody jumps ship and goes somewhere else, keep dreaming, pal, because it's not going to fucking happen. All that's going to happen is free speech is going to be chilled on the internet because we failed to act. Now, I want to get into this idea of private ownership a little bit and how they're allowed to censor us and do whatever the fuck they want, because this ties into so many issues. It ties into the Supreme Court decision that said that Citizens United, which is a bogus AstroTurf fucking group that tries to make itself look like a grassroots organization, but it's private special interest money. You know, the Supreme Court decision that says that corporation has as much of a right to free speech as an individual. You know, this all ties into this same bullshit notion of collectivist rights. And like I keep saying, it's individual rights that matter, not collectivist rights. And this is why we keep making these mistakes, and this is why we keep going down this bad road and fucking ourselves over. Is this idea that, oh, you know, Google's a private corporation, they can do whatever the fuck they want, they're not stopping you from you know, making your little videos on Dailymotion, which I guess would be the internet equivalent of the little fenced-off free speech areas that they have at political conventions, like for the Democrats and Republicans these days. You know, oh no, you can't protest out in the streets where anybody might see you. Have your little protest off in the corner in the fenced-in free speech zone. You know, and obviously I thought the whole country was supposed to be a free speech zone, so that's the irony there. But really, I think the world should be a free speech zone, and we're going to get a little bit more into that. Because, you know, let me give a little quick explanation about where I stand with the United States Constitution. Now, I'm an anarchist, Russ. So, do I really give a fuck about the Constitution, which was written by slaveholders and said that, you know, slaves are 3/4 of a man and yada yada? No, I don't really give a fuck. I use it as a tool to defend my rights when it's convenient for that use, okay? In other words, there are some good protections for my rights in that document. Okay, there are a few provisions in there that'll stop the police from beating my ass. And I'm more than willing, under those circumstances, to say, hey, guys, obey the Constitution. Hey, guys, remember your oath to the Constitution. But do I really care? No, Russ, I don't. And the reason why is that I think what the revolution in global communications that is the hallmark of the times we live in, and we live in very exciting times. We're lucky to be alive right now, Russ. One of the things it really shows us is how interconnected the world is. And I think that ideas of national sovereignty are going to become increasingly obsolete as we go forward. And people are going to start to realize, people are going to start to wake up. And they're going to start looking at all these foreign news services that they've never had available before. I mean, when has it ever been possible for a guy like me to know what a Russian newspaper is saying and to know what a Chinese newspaper is? You know, I can watch Russia Today, I can watch Al Jazeera, which I do. You know, I get my news from all over the world, so you get a more complete picture of what's going on than if you just rely on what the state propaganda apparatus, aka the corporate media, is willing to give you. And what it's showing us, what the more discerning people among us are going to be able to figure out, is that, hey, I have more in common. I have more shared interests with the average Iranian citizen than I do with this fat cat up here on Wall Street. And people are going to start to figure that out, and that's going to cause a huge shift in global consciousness. And that's really what we need. That's what we need so desperately. Now, you espoused this idea in your video that, well, you know, Google, YouTube isn't really, they're not really censoring you because it's not the government doing it. The government isn't the one telling you to shut the fuck up. It's a private corporation telling you to shut the fuck up. And you can easily go somewhere else. You can go to Daily Motion or what have you. Well, look here. For one thing, Russ, and you know, I think the best historical comparison to Google YouTube would be Ma Bell from back in the Gilded Age, but you know, it's not really an accurate comparison because that was just United States shit, and now we're looking at everything on a global scale, and that really changes the game because YouTube isn't just used by people in the United States; it's used all over the world. And if you ask me, that makes it a commons, like the environment. It's something that we're all responsible to maintain. But look, the difference between corporations and governments is becoming increasingly obsolete, and you can see this in all kinds of ways. People have remarked about how Bill Gates' personal fortune is larger than the gross domestic product of some small countries. Well, that really says something. It really there's a lesson to be learned from that. And when you're talking about a corporation like Google that has deep ties to the NSA, deep ties to the CIA, deep ties to the State Department, okay, they might as well be a branch of fucking government. They're working hand in glove with the United States government to censor political speech over here. They're working hand in glove with the Chinese government to censor political speech over there. They like I said in my video that you're replying to in the first place, they've been condemned by numerous non-governmental organizations like Amnesty International, like Reporters Without Borders, like Human Rights Watch, for censorship and human rights violations, and that really says something. Now, I am not going to be trapped by a false dichotomy between corporate and government, between private sector and public sector, that leaves me stuck in the middle. Because that's what's going on here. You know, Governor Jesse Ventura famously remarked that mainstream politics in the United States is like professional wrestling, because when the cameras are on, the Democrats and Republicans pretend that they hate one another, but behind closed doors, they're the best of friends. Well, it goes a little deeper than that. The same thing can be said of the false dichotomy between the public sector and the private sector. When the cameras are on, they pretend like they hate one another, but behind closed doors, they're the best of friends. And they're playing good cop, bad cop with us. Or as the British call it, Mutt and Jeff. They're having a fake fight that leaves us stuck in the middle. And it's almost like a schoolyard game of keep away between corporate America and the U.S. government with our rights. It's like the bully that grabs the hat off your head, and then the two bullies keep throwing the hat back and forth to each other, and you're running between them, trying to get your hat back. That hat is our individual liberties, our civil liberties, okay? And the two bullies are corporate America and the United States government, okay? Or if you want to widen the analogy out, corporations in general and governments in general, because we're not just talking about the U.S. anymore. And we're caught in the middle of this. But no matter which side you pick, your rights are not going to be safe. And it's so crucial to understand this. And you know, it's definitely something George Orwell understood when he said that the wars are against the people. The wars are waged by governments against the people. You know, you can see things like this clearly in the case of the WikiLeaks. The Bradley Manning case, when Julian Assange could not get political asylum anywhere. There was no world government that was willing to defend what he did, even despite the fact that the U.S. State Department documents that he released showed wrongdoings by the U.S. against those governments, some of those very same governments that condemned what he was doing. And you'd say, well, if they got to get a peek into what the State Department was plotting against their government, then how come they wouldn't defend Bradley Manning's actions and defend Julian Assange of WikiLeaks? Well, the answer to that question is a very simple one. The reason they weren't willing to step up and defend that is because they realized, hey, if the U.S. government and their State Department cannot protect their secrets, then how long is it going to be before the people that I'm trying to suppress and control get a hold on my secrets? So you can see that the governments of the world are in confederacy against us. The corporations of the world, the governments of the world, they're all in confederacy against us. The global intelligence community, look at who makes it up. It's not just governments anymore. It's not just it's not just MI5 and or is it MI6, MI5? I can't remember. But the point is, it's not just the CIA and the FBI. It's not just Mossad. It's Google now. It's Verizon now. That's the global intelligence community. Okay? And we're the ones caught in the middle. We are the ones caught in the middle. And if we don't start defending our rights, we're not going to have any left. It's crucial that you understand that. Now, Russ, you said that, you know, if you don't like the way YouTube is treating you, just go somewhere else. Just pick a different website. Well, I don't want to pick a different website, okay? Because, for one thing, I don't know how long you've been here on YouTube, but I'm grandfathered in. I'm a legacy user. I was here on YouTube building this place into what it is now before Google waltzed in with their millions of dollars and bought it out from under me, and now they're trying to kick me out. Okay? So I'm like the auto worker who's been working for years building up the company, causing them to make their profit that the shareholders benefit from. But then when my job becomes inconvenient to their bottom line, they're going to close the plant and lay me off. In other words, I work to foster their success, but then I don't get to reap the benefits of that success. It's the same old story where costs are socialized, but profits are privatized. Okay? And it's fucking ridiculous. I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to just leave. I'm not going to just start playing this shell game and chasing my freedom from one website to another. And then every time one of these websites becomes too big and gets too big for their britches, to use your terms, well, then we got to chase our freedom somewhere else and go crawl under a rock on Daily Motion. Fuck that. To quote Captain Picard, the line must be drawn here, this far and no further. Seriously, I mean, I'm not going to chase my freedom around. It's this. I fucking helped to build YouTube into what it is. I am a stakeholder, and I don't give a fuck about shareholders. I helped to make this place what it is. I was here defining what YouTube was before Google came along and bought it. Now, you want to say that YouTube is not too big to fail. Well, it really kind of fucking is. We have an infrastructure here, a global communications infrastructure that works, and it's already done so much good. If I look out my door in the next 5 minutes and I see a bunch of NOPD cops beating up somebody, within the next 10 minutes you can bet your ass that there will be a video of that incident on YouTube, and they won't be able to lie about it when they get to court. The world got to watch as the Egyptian protests happened on YouTube. YouTube has done so much fucking good. It's the way that we hold power accountable. It's the way that we keep governments honest. It's the way that we keep corporations honest. And we need this infrastructure. It is fucking vital to global democracy. It's fucking vital to everything that we need. And we can't just let it go. We can't just hand it over and say, oh, that's their private corporation. They can do whatever the fuck they want with it. It's not government censoring you. It's corporation censoring you. Well, if you examine the thing in itself, a corporation really is no different from a government. It's a large, highly organized in-group that's highly funded. They're primarily concerned with maintenance of themselves. In other words, it wants to keep itself going at the expense of everybody else. You know, fuck everybody else. Fuck your free speech. It's the collective free speech of Citizens United that matters. Fuck your free speech. It's the collected free speech of Google, YouTube that matters. Well, I don't buy that. I'm never going to start looking at the world that way. You know, I consider that we're moving into an era where national sovereignty is going to be increasingly meaningless, where the difference between government power and corporate power, if there ever was one to begin with, is also going to become increasingly meaningless. And where the citizens of the world, the most vast silent majority that there is, are going to start to come together and figure out these guys are all in confederacy against our individual rights. They're all in confederacy against our individual freedoms, and that means that we all need to be in confederacy against them. So, that's my fiery rhetoric for today, and if you, by the way, Russ, thanks for the video. I'm glad you recorded that one for me. This has been The Smooth Terrorist, and if you enjoyed this video, then download it, re-upload it, mirror it, parody it, make it your own. Because the corporate/government fucks at YouTube cannot censor me unless you let them. Keep it smooth.